Okay, well, now speak to Kabir Adamu, who's a security analyst, and he's also the managing director at Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, joining us from Abuja this hour. Thanks for your time. What do you think is behind the instability and displacement of people in northeastern Nigeria?
Thank you. A combination of factors. First is the insecurity. There are several non-state armed groups, some of them ideological, the terrorist ones. And then, of course, there are global environmental factors such as the flooding, displacement, and other natural factors that have led to that displacement. And then there are also governance issues, unfortunately, that have created these circumstances.
And what role has the resurgent attacks by groups like Boko Haram and others over the last few months, how have these resurgent attacks contributed to the humanitarian disaster?
Well, significantly. In the first place, when they attack locations, they affect the lives of the people in those locations. They disrupt their livelihoods, in particular access to farms, access to markets, and the daily activities that people would probably do if the security situation was not as bad as it was. So significantly, it's probably one of the highest contributions. And then for development and humanitarian workers, their ability to access some of these locations, to move around freely, is impeded as a result of the activities of these groups. In addition, is the associated security force operation by the military and other government security forces that also impacts that environment and reduces the ability of humanitarian and development actors to access locations.
So is the government simply failing at being able to tackle this problem?
Not exactly. The government, Nigeria as a country has, if you single out Nigeria in the region, it's doing probably more than any other country in the region. The multinational joint task force that is based in Chad is almost single-handedly funded and managed by the Nigerian government. But the challenge is huge. There are areas for improvement that the government needs to improve upon, especially when it comes to protecting rural communities where these issues of malnutrition are huge. The second factor is the inability for the government to put forward a framework that would address the malnutrition. The vice president did acknowledge the challenge, but till date, we haven't seen a framework. When COVID affected Nigeria, we saw how the Nigerian government responded by bringing together public and private sector players to come up with a fund that helped in managing the consequences of COVID. But we haven't seen that type of response by the Nigerian government at the moment.
Why do you think that is? And if you had to give the Nigerian government advice to tackle this problem, what would you say to the government in terms of priorities?
So the general perception is that there is a lot of politicking going on at the moment. There is going to be an election in 2027, and most of the politicians are kind of focused on that election. So my general advice is, return to governance, recognize the challenge, and then put in place the necessary measures, including a framework that would allow both the private sector players, the public players, and international development partners and humanitarian organizations to support, especially the needed, interventions in areas of food and all the WASH components. At the moment, that is lacking. And then, of course, if you add that to geopolitical developments, including the reduction of aid by the US, by EU, then it makes this an absolute priority. And we're hoping that in the next few weeks, we would see that type of action from the Nigerian government.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Kabir Adamu, you're joining us from Abuja this hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.